Unforgiveness betrays the forgiveness of God. Unforgiveness bypasses the justice of God. But when I seek to withhold forgiveness from you, what I'm saying is my refusal to forgive you for whatever offense it may be is my way of exacting justice upon you. And so, no, I'm going to harbor bitterness. I'm going to be resistant towards you. I'm going to be cold towards you. Why? Because it's my way of exacting justice upon you. And what am I saying? Lord, I'm not allowing you to be judge. I will be judge in this matter, so I will hold forgiveness. The Christian attitude is one that says, Lord, in light of Christ forgiving us, in light of the fact that you are the ultimate judge, I must forgive freely in love. I must commit myself to God who judges justly and leave vengeance to the Lord. Not only does unforgiveness betray the forgiveness of God and bypass the justice of God, but it belittles the suffering of Christ. He suffered far more than what we will ever suffer. And he did so unjustly, yet he freely forgave. When we refuse to forgive the offenses of others, what we're saying is that this offense against me is greater than the offenses against Christ. The offenses against me give me a right to withhold forgiveness, whereas the offenses against Christ, he forgave freely. And so I must be saying that the injustice against me are far greater than those against Christ. It belittles the suffering of Christ. Not only this, but it breaks the commandments of God. Jesus said, a new commandment I give to you, that you love one another as I have loved you. And so love one another. This is a new commandment, the commandment of love. You cannot withhold forgiveness from others without recognizing it's a direct violation of God's will for your life. It's a direct violation of His command to you. It's sin. Unforgiveness balks at the sovereignty of God. It fails to recognize that those who have offended us in the working of God's providence and His sovereign plan, He had brought into our life. And so Joseph can say, it's you who sold me into slavery, but it's God who led me here. Why? To save many people alive. He understood that behind even the evil workings of those who were ungodly, God's sovereign plan was unfolding. And so there are people in your life that God has brought in His sovereignty. He's working behind every circumstance. There's purpose in everything, and ultimately it's for your good and for His glory. And so it's there. You recognize He is sovereign, and so who am I? Really what I'm doing is I'm resisting the plan that God has allowed to unfold in my life. It betrays the forgiveness of God. It bypasses the justice of God. It belittles the suffering of Christ. Unforgiveness breaks the commandments of God. Unforgiveness balks at the sovereignty of God. Unforgiveness bars the worship of God. In that, what does the Bible say? Christ says, you find yourself, He gives this picture of going to the temple and you're going to worship, and He says, there at the altar, you remember that somebody has something against you, and so you leave your gift at the altar, and then you go and you make it right, and then you come back and worship. What He's saying is, I do not want you to worship in the context of broken relationships. You're harboring bitterness towards others. They are towards you. There's unforgiveness. There needs to be reconciliation. Make that right first and then come and worship. What do you do with somebody who comes to church, comes to the Lord's table, partakes, ostensibly saying, I'm recognizing the body of Christ that's broken for me and the blood that's shed for me, and does so harboring bitterness towards others, reserving for themselves the right to withhold forgiveness from others. So that's hypocritical worship which God rejects. God, through forgiveness, this is what He's doing. Through salvation and through forgiveness, He's creating forgivers. And so by this shall all men know that we are His disciples, by the love that we have for one another, and that love is seen through free forgiveness.